All
So Dana,
right.
why don't you kick us off? What are we doing here
Okay.
today?
Hey. Thank you, everyone who is on Zoom today and on LinkedIn Live. I am so excited to be sitting here with Rasheed from Extra Hands Virtual Assistants. And we're just like really excited to dive into talking about the intersection of brand strategy and operations. So, just to give you some introduction to me, my name is Dana Robertson. I'm the founder of Pennant Creatives, and I'm a brand strategist. I love working with our clients to make sure that their brand is clearly defined and then create a strategy to ensure that all of the touch points of their business fall in line in a way that really speaks the brand and keeps things consistent. And, what I try to convey to the teams and the individuals, the professionals I work with, is that brand is so much more than just that visual presence, and it reaches to things you might not think about initially, including operations. But Rasheed, introduce yourself.
That's me.
Yeah.
So I'm Rasheed Hamid. I'm the founder of Extra Hands Virtual Assistants. I'm the guy who helps build smart systems. I'm all about productivity. I'm all about workflow. And in the past couple of years, I've been all about pairing, the human expertise with AI or technology because that's the way that we're going. And it was just really easy to book this conversation with you because I believe very strongly in brand presence and brand voice. But more than that, I understand how it speaks throughout your organization in the way that you operate. And I think that's where we found this synergy and wanted to just share this. I have so many real case scenarios, but
Yeah.
that's me and that's you. Welcome.
Yeah. I talk about it like lived experience. So when we're looking at brand and trying to clearly define it, it really is, I mean, yeah, it's like you said, like voice and tone and the presence of the company. But it is about also like we talk a lot. What is your experience in the work that you're doing? And we dive deep into that, but then we also try to get into the shoes of the ideal client base and understanding who they are, what their struggles or pain points are, but also like what their strengths are or what you might find them doing out and about in their community. I think that that really can speak to, again,
Yeah.
like how they're showing up and how people are seeing them because they're usually like people are connected to places, right? And so it's like understanding where they're showing up, understanding how they're experiencing or finding you and where your brand or your company needs to also be hanging out. Those things are so important in kind of making sure that it's an authentic brand, right? Like that's aligning with clients and
I think a
the
perfect
company.
example of that, though, is year 8. Early on, I had a client who had the most beautiful IG Instagram page. And as we started to walk through her pipeline, and this is no disrespect to PayPal, her payment option was PayPal. So it took you away from this very beautifully branded, flow and into PayPal, which can, have its own brand interjected a little bit, but it was no context. You felt like you were leaving her business. You felt like you were going somewhere else. And there was this boom, there was this sharp disconnect. And I don't know if founders and owners are always aware of what that does to the psyche, to the person purchasing, to the person investing. There's a switch and you feel it. Oh, and they
Yeah.
shuffle into something else. And I believe in that being brand consistency or brand meets ops.
Yes, because it's like, well, and that's specifically related to the buyer experience, which is the thing you want to get and
Right.
making sure like that experience is seamless and it is like really considering it's like about empathy. I think sometimes it's about understanding how they're going to feel going through your buyer experience online.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I think that a lot of what I do with experience is also trying to uncover what the unknowns are with the client experience. I worked with, it's basically a startup nonprofit, and we were trying to understand it was providing online courses to multiple countries in Africa.
Sure.
And we were trying to understand what the needs were, but also like when you're selling a product, you need to understand what is a reasonable price, especially if you're doing it in, you know, serving and creating the courses on American-based platform or website, but
Mhm.
then understanding what is the price point. And so it was that the courses were set at $25, but we learned that this specific customer base, they were saying that what they can pay is about $5, $5 US. And that was a big eye opener because it was like, we can get more traction to getting this very important set of trainings
Yeah,
to,
it's kind of a big.
yeah. And so it's like, how would we get them to buy? And that was like one of the biggest challenges. So it's like learning that stuff is about, creating the data collection and then understanding what the experience is, maybe why the customer isn't doing or buying or reacting in a way that aligns with what you're trying to convey in your business or the service levels that you're trying to provide. So that is something I have seen
That's a
that
great
is
example.
directly related to like ops. And it's also like sometimes it takes a little bit more to really understand what the needs are of your clients.
That's true. I think for me, brand is your promise, right? And then ops is just how you keep that promise. It's
Oh,
how
wow.
you carry people through the entire experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just always been so important to me. And I remember my first logo. My first logo was trash. I had no idea what I was doing. I just ran out of the gate. I found something on Canva. I didn't know, how to translate it in multiple spaces and multiple medias and multiple forms. And I was like, oh, you just need a logo. You just need something. It was illegible. You couldn't see it. It was this tiny. And I saved it. I had it in a folder on my desktop. And I look back at that thing like, man, and sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that's why this conversation is so important. The
Yeah.
importance of brand and something that you want to last with you. And is it workable in your organization? And are you capable of translating that in multiple ways? Some of the ways I can think about is onboarding, right? Not only onboarding, we have a very thorough onboarding when we wrap up with a client. And part of my brand voice has always been, from my years in hospitality, it's been about service. It's been about white glove service. And we have tried to make sure that our clients are experiencing that white glove touch at every intersection. And you don't have to see a logo to feel that.
Absolutely. And it varies. I think it is. It's very based specifically on literally how you're showing up in the world. So, I mean, a big piece of me working through and figuring out and defining brand is asking the company or asking the professional, who are you? And what pieces of that are we bringing to your customer base for them to really align with? And depending, it can vary, very, very. And that is the importance for me of brand, is just that it's foundational, and it's foundational to literally everything that you're doing in your business.
Why do you think it matters so much?
I think that brand matters so much because it can literally be your roadmap or your guidebook. Brand can help you, like you're saying, how to present your client experience beyond your website and your marketing, which are both also incredibly important activities. But it is literally like, if you can, a lot of times I tell the people I work with, look at your brand. When you're trying to make a decision about what content to put out in the world or ways to communicate, or how, sometimes even like how internally your employees are seeing your brand and manifesting it in the work they do.
Sure.
You go back, if you're going to make a change or going to try something new, look back at your brand, and your brand can tell you what the logical next step is.
Right.
And it's important for that reason. But then the other thing I say often is, I can make you all the pretty things in the world, right? We can
Yeah.
design gorgeous logos and captivating websites and wonderful content. But if you're not doing the right specific thing for your business that is brand led, it's not going to really, there's so many chances that it's not going to work. So I think that those are two really important foundational things that I try when I'm working, from start to finish, when I'm working with a client to do this work that I do, is to really start getting that in their minds. And it's so cool because I've had long-term organizations that come back and they want to add something to their website, or they want to try to solve this problem or interact with a new audience. And we just go back. We go back to what we've determined and see what needs shifted, but also see what's there and keep that foundation solid. It's just, yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Makes a huge difference.
It really does. I think for me, it's so important. I think about my own organization first and foremost, just turning the mirror inwards. And I think about the ability to delegate. Earlier on when I said brand it's part of your business's character. It's your business's character, right? And so if the character is to be perceived as organized and efficient and productive, if those are the words you want to associate with your organization, then that starts at the brand. I can't hire a VA without the character of my company showing through in that onboarding
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
right? If it's scattered, if it's disjointed, then I'm literally hiring in chaos. And the same way a client can feel that, an employee can feel that, a contractor can feel that, and it just doesn't translate to the message that you're trying to send across. And for that reason, I truly believe that brand is hot. I had God forgive me, I'm not making fun of this young lady. She's trying her best. I had a conversation with a client last night. If you're on, I love you. We're going to do great. But she's trying to build out her website, and she didn't hire us to do branding. She just hired us to build the website, and we turn around a brochure style website in 30 days or so. And we sent her the requirements for a brand. We needed the hex numbers, the verbiage, the logos, and she didn't have a logo. And she hand sketched a logo. Now I have the flu, so I was up at 2 in the morning trying to sweat it out. And I saw the email. I was like, "Surely you don't want me to use this." She's like, "But it's good. It's not." I said, "Friend, I'll call you tomorrow. There's no way I'm submitting this to the web team to build out." And the light bulb went off in my head that she skipped a step, because in my onboarding of her, I asked her, "Do you have all your brand stuff? Send it over." And it was kind of a last minute rush, and she's been piecemealing it to me. And when I got it last night, it's like, she's not ready. She's not. We have to pause everything. I can't build a website with placeholders everywhere.
Yeah, and like when I launched Pennant, that was like one of my first realizations in working through the creative work that we do is that we can't, I mean, before we put pen to paper, we do this with every single one of our clients. So even if we're delivering some other, like a logo or a content plan or,
Sure.
the runs the gamut, a newsletter template or whatever it is, that we have to start with brand. And it's great because there are certain companies out there, like design companies or website companies, that don't really require that. They're just, and so like I've had customers come to us and say, all I wanted was a logo. So, and it's a natural, like, what the fit is. You really then, for us, it's like almost like we understand what our brand is. We convey
Yeah.
that very clearly. And it also helps to make sure that you're working with your people, the people who really want what you have to offer. But yeah, like it is a very specific and necessary step. It's like, how am I supposed to design or work on anything with you uh, until I know who
Yeah.
you are and we're in alignment with understanding exactly what that brand is, so that we can
Sure.
let it guide the work we're doing together.
I've always been impressed by brand strategists, the ones who get it, the ones who just have that creative knack to bring someone's vision, especially when we show up with nothing. If I'm the client, I want a logo, and I don't really know, I'm just out there, I need the thing. I will never forget the work that I did with Christina, another brand strategist that we worked with, when she built the logo that is Extra Hands now. I didn't know what her process was, and I'm getting to, I want to know about your process. When she and I first engaged, I was expecting a questionnaire. I was expecting some long, drawn out process, checking boxes and looking at color palettes. And I didn't know what to expect. She just talked. She just talked to me for the first session. We just talked for like an hour. My mom had just passed, and she was very curious about our relationship and our closeness. She did ask me about some of my favorite colors, and she asked me, what is the feeling that I want our clients to feel when they're working with us, when they stop working with us. And I've never told this story about our logo live or, in public. The two cogs and the Extra Hands logo represent my business and your business. And the infinity sign is there to insinuate that we have the potential to work together. But it's also a play on my mom's name. Her name is Sophia. And it's basically the infinity sign. It's just two S's together. And so she was able to work in something very personal about my mom.
Oh, wow.
She knew that we both love the color blue. She knew wanted my founders and my colleagues to feel when we worked together. And on day 2, when she dropped that logo, she was like, well, this is just a template. I said, no, it's not. This is it. You nailed it. So I've always been super impressed by Christina's ability to bring someone's vision to life. What's your process like? How do you pull it out when people don't know what they want?
Yeah. So first of all, I always tell my clients, like, you have it in you. Like, it's there. What my job is to work through the things you know. And so if you don't know anything, trust me, we're going to find it together.
Sure.
Or and specifically, like, I work with companies with any data that they have, and then sometimes we have to go about a process of gathering data. If we don't have it, if we don't know something, we try to figure out how we can learn it through doing research or surveys or like some focus groups, those kinds of things. And so that's a big piece of my strategy is getting a
Yeah.
handle on what's the data, what are the known things. And so it's almost like a scientific but really people-centric process for me, because that is the intersection that I learned, was that that research method is foundational and focus on people and their lived experience. Like, that is how I learned to work as a social worker and to build programs. I was very entrepreneurial as a social worker. I just would start programs and build models and things like that. So when I came to be, more tapping into more my creative side, I was able to bring that over. And so it's about gathering, the quantitative data, but then this qualitative stuff, it comes from the inside out. And so it is about pulling those experiences out of the company. And it's also like paying attention to the things that they're saying that they may not notice that they're saying, and kind of
Hmm.
pointing to that to understand exactly what is meant. And, honestly, okay, one of my favorite quotes, this maybe is weird for a brand strategist, but it's culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Got it.
But that's the thing is
All right,
brand.
break that down for me.
Yeah, like, okay. So, like, you need to understand, again, with lived experience, internally with that company, every company has a culture, and you can't try to create a culture.
Yeah.
Culture just happens when you start a business. And so that's what I mean is like, we can create a strategy, but until I understand that lived experience and that culture, it's not going to help anybody, right?
That's
So
fair. Yeah.
that is a huge piece of my qualitative approach. And then that is when we match the quantitative with the qualitative data and we understand each other and we're in alignment with what the language is and what the words mean and how they want to show up visually, those things can all be combined to then look at the next leg of their journey in their business and create a really specific strategy based on what is known and what we need to know more about. And then really it is like trying to help them solve that problem or reach the people that are out there looking for them. And so that's like the end result, obviously, is a strategy. And I usually recommend that you create a strategy that isn't 5 years long, because if you're looking at a shorter block of time, like 90 days or 6 months, you have the opportunity then to continue to go back to your brand. Certain pieces of your brand are iterative. And
Yeah.
so again, it's kind of like the scientific process for social science and understanding and seeing what is aligning and what isn't with your clients, and then adjusting from there. Because there are certain things that will always be foundational to who you are. There are other things that very much, it's like a relationship. It's a relationship based thing with your brand. It's like that relationship with your brand and with your customers is essential to get right. And so that takes time. So like
Yeah.
I never recommend doing a big 5 year reach. It's like we talk about where you want to be in 5 years, but it's in stepping stones and in tweaking and working through that strategy to make sure it's right on the money with where you're at then with your business. Which
Right.
brings me to scaling. I
Let's do
know
it.
that
Let's do
you
it.
help a lot of clients with scaling businesses, right? So tell me about that and the experience, because I don't want to assume, but I want to understand, like, when clients come to you and they're trying to scale, like, what are they experiencing? And then how do you help them introduce them to like the brand ops connection?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think when I'm dealing with a client who we're doing a project-based work or long-term VA work and the end goal is to scale, I think they would fall into one of three categories as it relates to the merger of brand and ops for me. I think they would either be a client whose brand is missing from their operations altogether, and that's that chaos again, right? I can't coach you, I can't guide you from this place. Like we got to go back a couple of steps for me to effectively work with you and for us to see change. I can't build more chaos for you. I'm not going to assign my VA to work in the space of chaos because nothing is going to get accomplished, at least not at the level that I would aspire to, our level of excellence that we try to work towards. The second one would be they have brand that is just functional in operation. And I think that scenario means that things are okay. But for me, if I were the client, you're not memorable. When things are just okay with brand and operations working together, it means that you might have, or you got your emails all linked up, but nothing makes people feel your values in that. They're not feeling you, that character is missing. And so in that space, how do I make you more memorable? Because the memorable are the ones who get referrals. And then the last category for me would be the ones who have brand working great in their ops. Those are my superstars. You know, those are the people who, and they might not have started that way. Don't get it twisted. They might not have started that way, much like myself. I think it's very noticeable to see because their systems are being reinforced by their identity across the board, right? The way in which I write an email, my tone, my language, is that being translated from everything to, hey, your invoice is due, to welcome to the organization? Like, is it consistent? Does my team know it? Is our writing that way throughout the organization? Are our contracts written that way? Are our proposals written that way? Brand goes deep into everything. It really is, you know, an integral part of the business. It's not just a logo. I think people just get that logo, that color palette, and they're off to the races. And you wonder why you can't scale. But I think people who are at a place where they're ready to scale or they feel their scale approaching, those people typically have their finger on a good understanding of who they are and who their brand is. And the opposite is when it doesn't work, when it's not synced.
Right. So it sounds like either way, you're
to the chaos. I think that's in, you know, our brand even speaks to the way we hire our VAs, the way we vet, the way we interview, the way we welcome people into our team. It all goes back to that white glove service, that touch that people can feel, right? And so who would I be if I shunned people or make them feel bad because they were in a chaotic space? They called me because they were in chaos. That was the point.
Yeah.
That was the point. And again, in clearing that chaos, if I can guide them into where those broken brand pieces, then let's fix that at the same time.
I will say
that's when I call you.
Right, exactly. And like that's where I come in. It's like, oh yes, let's get this going. Let's get this in shape so that your team can help them carry forward that brand in the operations and any of the other activities, which are many with your VAs. They're specialized. So it's great because it works so well together, because then that strategy can continue to be reviewed by the expert team that your clients have hired, right? It's like,
I'm so glad when we circle back. It's been years since we've been in the same city and state together, but when the opportunity came for us to work together, I think I was just at the right place and right understanding of my business. Because I also think it's worth saying that none of us know everything. We're constantly growing. I'm constantly learning more about my business, more about my client, more about what I can do right, more about what I've been doing wrong. And I think if I would have tried to approach you and say, hey, let's see how we can work together. If that were 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I don't think it would have been as impactful. I didn't know what I know now about branding, and I'm far from a strategist. My special talent is I've always been good at building bridges between this person and that person. Oh, you know, you need to talk to, connect you with this person to that person. You know, you should work with. That's been my special gift. So when the opportunity came for us to converse and see where is this intersectionality for us, it made perfect sense because I had worked through it. I had seen it. I had the clients to, the user cases to back it, and I felt it. It was like, this makes sense because, again, I can't do what you do. I know how I want to feel when dealing with a vendor, a colleague, a client, and I know when that feeling is off. And that's why I call my people like you.
Well, and when we met, it was because I can't do what you do. And so
that's exactly right.
Like Rasheed,
that's right. I forgot about that.
Rasheed got me in order with my client pipeline. It was like, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And Rasheed, you were so non-judgmental with me. I'm like, oh, help me. Do you have invoicing? No. Do you have contracts? You know, like there are just so many things that you help me have a built-in system for this client relationship to make sure that I know where they're going next with the sales process, to the contract, to the signing of the contract, but then also they know, which is the
I know that sounds like BS. I totally forgot about that until just now. when you mentioned it. I knew we had worked
Yeah.
together, but I forgot in what capacity. And you weren't as bad as you thought you were. You weren't
Okay,
as
well,
bad.
thank you.
No,
I,
no.
yeah, and I will also say, like, with my ops, I am in a rediscovery process now because my work has changed, right? Like, Pennant has been going on for almost 9 years, and
Congrats.
as I learn and shift the work that we're doing, which I'm kind of in the middle of doing right now,
Right.
I'm understanding that my ops are going to have to be shifted as well to make sure that it's completely aligned with our brand that has shifted and changed over the course of years. So that's how you're going to be hearing from me again.
I'll be
But
here.
it
I'll
is,
be here.
I think it is, it's important. It's just like brand, you have to revisit and make sure it's working well. It's not like a set it and forget it situation with
Sure.
either ops or brand and brand strategy, in my opinion. I think
I agree.
client.
Conversational type of information exchange is also very useful. I wouldn't have wanted to put
Mm,
together some gamma deck or this is
mhm,
bigger than a carousel or a reel. I think the ability for two professionals to sit and exchange and for people to be able to sit in, whether it's now, whether it's in the replay or however we chop and screw this thing and share it in pieces. I think this speaks to our both of our brands. This
mhm.
is your style. This is your personality. Who's on the screen right now is exactly who you are. And I like to
Yeah,
think that I'm pretty authentic in the way that I present myself as well. So
totally.
I know I had, as the ops guy, look, I'm the one who couldn't start a Zoom.
Which is why we both brought our wonderful, my amazing intern, Oakley Buscarino, and you have the
Absolutely.
amazing
No,
to
thank you. You
keep
kept me
us in
company.
line.
I was going back to bed. I have a
Oh,
fever. I've been drinking soup and tea all day. I was like, Orlando, I can't figure this out. I need help. I'm not as smart as you guys
oh.
think I am. I'm going to bed. He was like,
Yeah,
just calm down.
yeah,
Let's do some takeaways because
yes.
we're
Okay,
approaching that time.
all
I'm gonna
right.
toss to you. What do you want people to walk away with here?
I think it is the understanding that, beyond what we've defined as brand, which is way beyond that visual presence, it is to understand the iterative approach that I believe needs to happen with brand and brand strategy. It is, again, you can't just set it and forget it. It is
Yeah.
an inquiry process. It is a continuation. Once you get a good foundation and your startup strategy with wherever you're at in your business, we get that brand strategy going. It is so important to do the work of coming back and seeing what's going on, what's working, what's resonating, and then shifting it. That is the most important piece of making sure your brand is authentically aligned throughout the course of, if you have a team, even of like 3 people, everybody needs to be aligned around that. And the best way to do it is to make sure you're reviewing it on a regular basis to tweak and work
Consistency.
through what's working, what's not. So please remember that as you're watching, that it is iterative. And that's a lot of times why people bring in me as a brand strategist, because they're doing the amazing work they're doing. And I'm the one that can keep everyone together and keep that strategy rolling forward to make sure what's the next stepping stone? What do we need to do? Let's look back at how we did with the strategy that we created and let's tweak it. So that's a lot of times where I come in. So yeah, I think brand is iterative. Don't forget that. And I think it is also like you're never done looking at which touch points in your business your brand can shine with, right? And
It's awesome.
so somebody walks
Mhm.
into your store, your waiting room, or your restaurant. How do they feel as soon as they walk in the door? Are they welcomed? Who says what? Some of the world's strongest brands, they make sure that's right from the get-go. Let's think like Apple, Starbucks,
Yep.
Chick-fil-A. Like there is
Yeah.
an experience that you are having that is consistent no matter which store you walk into. And that is insanely important. And with strategy, you need to continue thinking about those touch points.
I think it's brilliant that you were able to like really pinpoint and name some organizations that are well known that lit and it's
Mhm.
consistent all the way. When I think back to my history before virtual assistant work and back in my hotel and restaurant days, you can't lose that. That training, that ability to train consistency and train brand all the way down. You know when you're in the Four Seasons. You absolutely feel it.
Mhm.
It's in the air. I don't know if they're pumping something through the vents, but
Oh
you
my goodness.
know when you're in a St. Regis, when you're in a Ritz Carlton. You feel it. My BLT steak days. The lighting was always the same. The leather was always not even the same, but just gave you that warm, cozy feeling. And to your point, if I don't feel that consistently, then the brand is broken. I think
Exactly.
one of the things that I would want people to walk away with from an operational space today is stop building systems that you have to micromanage. If you have to micromanage the system, then your brand isn't speaking through that. If you're building a workflow, if you're building, a follow-up, whether it's cold DMs or, your invoicing process, whatever it is, if the system doesn't have your voice, your feel, your tone, then the company's value is never going to be fully seen or felt. And I'm a big believer in your brand needs to speak for you even when you're not in the room.
Yes.
And your systems can execute that. The way that you operate can totally achieve that. But more than anything, I don't want anyone to leave this call and think that they're, so off kilter and this is so unattainable. We're not talking about perfection. I'm talking about alignment. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you touched on that when you said, don't shoot so far in the future because you do have to re-strategize. You have to revisit this. Is this still on brand for me? Right? Is this still?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, it is, like it's not perfection. You learn, it's kind of like personal development. Like it's kind of like that with brand and brand strategy. You learn as you go.
Exactly.
And that is important in making sure that that brand shifts with you. Can I share one story about a way that brand shows up? And this is like, shout out to my brother. So we are both creatives and he is creative in a different way that I'm not. So one of his jobs at one point was to create custom scents for businesses. And so there's this boutique hotel and they had this sheet spray that had this unique smell that everybody, no matter who comes to the hotel, they're like obsessed with. So my brother worked with the hotel to get that sheet smell pumping through the air ducts.
Wow.
So
I love those kind of little touches. That's pretty dope.
Legit, like, or like those tiny things speak your brand. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Tim, that is amazing. Like as a brand, like what do your clients smell when they come into your place of business? You got to think about all of it.
And you never know the impact that it has. How many memories do you have associated with smell? Your grandma's cooking, your auntie's. I mean, those things. That's her character. That's who she is, and you remember that. It's
experience. But again,
great.
That hotel, probably when they launched, they weren't thinking about that, but they did.
Absolutely not.
Anyway. But yeah, oh my gosh, Rasheed, this was so much fun.
This really was fun. I'm glad I fought through and made it happen. It was totally worth it. Thank you for
way to persist.
Tell me, where can people find you? Where can they find Dana? Where are you? How do they get in touch?
Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. That is where I'm talking a lot about the work that I'm doing. And you can always email me. It's dana@raisethepennant.com. I'm actually going to be re-upping my newsletter. So if you jump on my email list, I know that the newsletter sign up is on my website, raisethepennant.com. That's all of our URLs. So find me there, reach out if you want to have coffee. Would love to connect and meet with you and how this strategy piece can synergize with your operations. I'm loving this partnership with Extra Hands. So if you can't find me, just ask Rasheed. He knows how to find me.
And if you're looking for me, you can find us. Obviously, you're here on LinkedIn or watching this replay later. Rasheed Hamid on LinkedIn, the best place, or Extra Hands Virtual Assistants on LinkedIn. We don't do much over on IG, but Extra Hands VAS as in virtual assistant source on Instagram. But also, more importantly, I just want to say, if you're tired of your brand and your backend acting like they're in two different relationships, give us a call. Shoot one of us a DM and check us out. Dana is absolutely fabulous at what she does. She has a very special creative vision and she loves what she does, and it shows in the work that you do. And I absolutely love working with you. So any opportunity we get to join forces, I'm here for it.
Yeah, same. Let's do it.
Thank you, Dana. Thank everybody for joining. This was much better than it started. I feel much better.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And again, shout out to Oakley and Orlando for doing all the things to make this happen as well. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Cheers.